Welcome to the next episode. Perfection kills humanity. What does it mean, perfection? We always think that we need to be better, or we are not enough. We are not beautiful enough. We are not good enough. We are not intelligent enough. In this episode, we're gonna see and check what is killing us with perfections. So, hello, Susan.
Hello, Alessandro.
What does it mean for you, perfections?
Oh, personally, for me, it actually means to always striving for more and wanting to be somebody, and you think this is it. I mean, this is like this feeling, I need to be this way and then I'm beautiful. I need to be this way and then I don't know, I have the perfect body. I mean, I think for women, it's the body is always the topic. So I think first of body image for me, this is the first thing that comes up for me. I don't know what comes up for you when you think about perfectionism or perfection.
From my side, it's more about lifestyle. When I was younger, I had a lot about body image, and so I should be more fit. I should be taller. Oh my God, this was something that I struggled so much when I was young. Said,
Yeah.
why you're so short? And I become so short. This is your fault. I should be more taller because in Italy we are taller. And so when I was younger, it was more from this side, more from the image. Now I become more lifestyle. What is perfect for me? What is the perfect job? What is the perfect income? What is the perfect house I should have? And this one, it is the picture that I have always in mind when I think about perfection, to be perfect. And at the same time, it's something that stresses us so much. Do you agree?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think especially when we start creating an image in our head of how we should be. I think you said it very well. Like, I should have this, I should have that. And this is like causing, I think, constant stress in the end because you feel like your life needs to be in a certain way. And especially when it's not that way. I mean, when you're not as tall as you should be, or I don't know, I think in my case, it was I always wanted to have super slim legs, but as I'm doing a lot of sports and I'm exercising a lot, my legs are like little trees. To be honest, I mean, they're really strong, and I was like ashamed of that for a long time. So I was like, come on, that can't be like, especially when I was buying trousers, sometimes they would be too big on the waistline, but I wouldn't fit into them because of my legs. And I was like, oh, goodness, this is horrible. It made me feel, I felt imperfect in that way, in that moment, and it stressed me out. Definitely it did, because I was like, shit, there's no trouser for me. What the hell?
What's wrong?
Exactly. What's wrong? I mean, this is also something that I think very quickly, yeah, that's the feeling you get quickly, right? And I think probably a lot of the ones that are listening are sharing that same feeling when you feel you have to fit into something, and but it's just not right. You just feel wrong sometimes, right? Or I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I feel the same as you. And I was thinking also another aspect that you said, because we feel wrong. You talk about body image, about legs, about thinner legs, or these aspects. For example, I work out a lot, and I often went to the gym and also practicing CrossFit. And when I was there, men were more attracted to muscular women, more fit women. And when they see someone thin, they said, oh, it's not my type. And it's totally fine. But a lot, very often, women feel I need to be thinner, I need to be slim, and I need to be not I know I don't have to build so many muscles because it's not good for my feminism. So we can see that it's very often about standards and perfectionism. Be perfect, it's very relative because what is perfect for me is not perfect for you. What what I was thinking it is, if I ask you, for example, to cook the best meal you can cook, and maybe because I cooked it yesterday, I ask you to cook the best parmigiana.
Yeah.
So you go to the kitchen and with your idea of the best one, you start to cook. And when you finish, normally you're happy, it's fine. And if I ask your husband to try and test it, probably it will say that it's perfect because it want to stay married for a longer time.
Yeah.
So he will die for sure. It is awesome, awesome. Oh. But if I ask professional chef to try it, he will come and he will find probably 10, 20 things that is not good from his standards.
Oh yeah.
And that
It's
is very relative. And we can understand why with something it's okay, but when is about us, about what is about our image, our lifestyle behaves, then we start to be more critical against ourselves.
yeah, it's so interesting what you touched upon. I think it's, and this is actually a point. I mean, now when you told me about that dish, I thought of like actually pizza as well. I mean, I think in between friends we have a huge discussion around what's the best pizza in town. And once it actually happened to me that a friend of mine told me, you know what, you have to go to this place. It just has the best pizza in town. And my husband and I went there and we were so disappointed. We were like, this is not the best pizza. We don't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is also a typical example of what to say. It doesn't really fit to our idea of what is a perfect pizza, but it fit to his idea in that case. And this is really, I think, something very important to keep in mind. And sometimes I'm actually wondering with all these standards, I mean, this is sometimes we think it's a standard of society, but if we are honest with ourselves, it's our own standard that we're putting on ourselves that is often just so high. It's just a form of pressuring ourselves with high expectations instead of just embracing who we are and
Mhm.
saying, this is us. It's just, I feel it's sometimes just an indirect form of pressuring us and not really, yeah, recognizing and, yeah, just valuing who we are.
It's very interesting what you say is that it's inner aspect because I totally agree. However, it comes from somewhere. We we are not born with the idea to be perfect. When we were a baby, we didn't care if we fall down when we try to walk. We tried again and again and again, and even if somebody was laughing, it was fine. We were laughing back.
Yeah.
But then we grew up, and something happened in the middle. You said hey, it's not the society, it's our problem, and I agree. However, imagine just this aspect, this example. Um, you're a child, you're at home, you are maybe 5 years old, and what you want is the love of your parents. You want to be loved, and so you try to do whatever you can to make them happy. And then you do something wrong and they start to complain. You don't need to do this one. Go to the other part. Take this. this toy and put it away, clean your room. And whatever you do, it's often something wrong when you listen the sentences from your parents, and you start to understand that there is not anymore your only standard, but there is also your parents' standard.
Yeah.
And then you go
And
to school. Oh yeah, go.
yeah, no, it's fine. It's just like, it just came to my head. In addition, I mean, if you're, when you're a child, it's also crucial because, I mean, you cannot live on your own yet. So it's for your survival, it's essential that you take close attention to what your parents want, because you need their love and their affection. Yeah, in order to survive simply as a child, especially as a young one. So yeah,
And they start to be
totally.
your model.
Yeah.
And so you start to model them and say, okay, what I want, what I was thinking that is right for me is not. What they say, it's good. And what they say, it's perfect. Not what I think. So from that moment, that is not parents' fault. It's normal. Also because improving is good, and give some advices is good. But in that moment, we start to think, okay, I'm not good enough. I need to improve in this aspect.
Yeah. And also it in a certain way teaches you to say, okay, if I do something the way others don't want me to do it, it seems it's wrong. And if I don't want to suffer the consequences, I should pay close attention to what the others want, and I should do it that way. And as you said, obviously this is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And so be careful and don't do it wrong, do it right.
Yes,
Right.
exactly right. Because it's right for them.
Right for them. Yeah.
And it's not just with family. We can live this one at school, with classmates, with teachers. The first time that we go to the job, if we go there and we don't perform very well, we get fired. And then with our relationship, when
At
we
least at least we think we get fired, right? I think this, because it's a good point that you're touching upon, because I mean, I think very often these fears like that we developed also in our childhood, um, afterwards just continue in our work environment. Because I would say, in a certain way, our family environment is afterwards replaced by our work environment.
Mhm.
And we show the same habits and patterns in a certain way over there. And when we learn that, yeah, we should be afraid when we make a mistake, something bad is happening. I mean, yeah, what can usually happen in a work environment? You get fired. And I know that myself. I mean, I had that same fear, to be honest. For me, it was the same. I was like, oh, I shouldn't do anything wrong. And oh shit, that was horrible as well, because very often it took me so long to complete a task because I was checking twice or three
Mhm.
times
Mhm.
just to be sure it's really well done.
Yeah. And often it's not the boss who tells you that this should be perfect, but it's the idea from the society that if you don't perform well, you're gonna be fired. But from the boss, often they want that you improve your job, and they know that the only way to improve is to make mistakes sometimes. And doesn't mean like huge mistakes, but you also need to be able to get better and better. So you need to try. But the idea to try, it's all often misunderstood.
Yeah, but I think it can also be both, because to be honest, I mean, I changed jobs a couple of times already, and there were companies where also the work environment was quite toxic.
Mhm.
So sometimes, yes, it's your own. I think it always clashes. It always goes together, right? I think when you already have such a history of, I think you always look for a familiar surrounding in a certain way. So when you're used to a surrounding where mistakes are criticized in a certain way, you also look for it. but subconsciously. And you go to, because actually that's what happened to me. I subconsciously, because I didn't know that I was actually really critical with myself and when I did mistakes, I was kind of looking for this environment, and I found myself back into such an environment. It took me quite a while to realize that both interact. So it can be also an environment where the boss is just always criticizing. It can also happen. Or not even the boss, but can be colleagues as well, right? When the whole environment as such is quite toxic, it's also very hard to stay relaxed, I would say, and say, okay, I'm just doing that stuff and I'm just learning, and because you're not, you're like, you're going to be tense and even more tense when a mistake is happening, because will be annoying.
Yeah, and you feel a lot of pressure. And the problem is colleagues, for example, or your boss, you can choose them. But sometimes, very often, you can choose to leave. But we decide to stay and to prove ourselves that we can be better and be perfect, because we're scared also to leave.
Yeah, and I think also because that's in a certain way an environment we know and we got used to, right? Because it's also a pattern that we developed. We are used to people like telling us, but this needs to be better, and you need to work on your weaknesses and so on and all that stuff. I mean, because that's just what you know, and you're like, you think to a certain extent this is normal. That's how it should be, right?
You touch also a very important point that often I disagree, that we need to work on our weaknesses. I believe that we should work.
What's your point? Yeah.
I believe that we should avoid to work too much on our weaknesses, but work much, much, much more on our strength, because it becomes very easier to improve them and become excellent, instead of put effort in the weaknesses and then become mediocre.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I also think, I mean, that's also why we all have different strengths and weaknesses, right? Because otherwise, in any point in time, we would become like a plain person in a certain way. And the good thing is, when we have weaknesses, somebody else can help us with our weaknesses. And in a certain way, that's also how the economy works, right? We put our strength and sell them or offer them as a services. And for the weaknesses, somebody else helps us and we pay the other person for that. So that's I would say it's a natural way.
Exactly.
And that's definitely, yeah.
I don't want that this one become an excuse to not improve, because for example, if I'm weak in empathy or communication, and something that is necessary in life, and I need to improve this aspect, because I become a better human being, and this is important. But if I'm weak in math, I don't have to be good in math. So I also want to make understand that it's not everything, it's in the same level.
Yeah, and I also think in the end it's all about choice, right? I mean, you can also choose to live without a lot of empathy. You can choose, but then maybe the consequences, the ones that you also choose, because you also always choose the consequences, not only that decision as such, the consequences might not be what you would like to choose as well. So definitely, I think improvement is, for me, should also be a conscious choice to say, okay, this is what I really choose to improve on, and that's what I'm okay with, and say, no, this is my special effect, and that's it.
I totally agree. And because we fear so much improvement, why we want to be perfect?
It's a good question. I mean, I think in the end, it doesn't really help. I think it really kills a lot of things. I mean, when I think about, I would say right now, I'm quite okay the way I am, and I can embrace who I am a lot more than before. I still have a bit of struggles, but it's getting a lot better. But I remember when I was really like trying to be perfect all the time. I mean, I wasn't creative at all because I was stressed the whole time, and it's impossible to be creative when you're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it also drains all your energy, right? It just you're tired because you're making such a big effort the whole time, and nothing is moving on. You're just so slow.
Yeah.
Because you're checking everything twice, you're making such a big effort, and every small project turns into a massive one.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, but I have to think about this and that, and wait, maybe this can happen and this can happen. You're trying to be so sure that nothing would happen. I think it just makes you feel so stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tiring, and so I don't see a reason why that could be beneficial on the long run. Or how do you see it? I mean,
I
how is
see
it for you?
that we have approved even now with the podcast that we started with the idea not to be imperfect, but to accept the idea to be imperfect and to improve along the way. And this was the only way to start. Probably, for sure, if we would start to say, okay, we need to have a perfect video, perfect audio, perfect intro, schedule, whatever, we wouldn't record the first episode at this moment. And
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
we already have 5 done.
Yes.
And it's massive action. So anytime that we think that we need to be perfect, we block our actions and we block the evolution of our life. We can't move on and have more new ideas. We can have more achievements. We can have new happiness if we continue to think that we need to be perfect.
Yeah. And I think you just gave a great example, right? I mean, I think our first episode, we released it after, I think, 1.5 weeks after the initial idea,
Yeah.
right? It was just like a bit more than, I think, yeah, about 10 days from like just a first idea, and then we just did it. And but this wouldn't have been possible if we would have said, okay, but we have to do this and that and this and that and this. And I think it's also a good point. This is also a first step into a solution, right? As you said, I mean, we allowed ourselves to just say, yes, it will be, maybe the sound will suck sometimes. Maybe we will sometimes get stuck in the middle or whatever. I mean, there will be things happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. I think we started also saying, okay, it's fine, and we allowed for imperfection, but we said, despite all of that, we just start and we just do it, and it will be all right. And we focused more on the fact that we wanted to create results and help our listeners, and instead of saying we are striving for perfection, we are striving for results, yes, but without perfection. And I think for myself, I can say by doing that also constantly now, it relaxes me massively just to do the stuff, right? And this is, I think, a good first solution, a step, because every fear grows when you avoid it.
Yeah.
So need to jump actually right into what you're avoiding. And I think that's what we did. We just jumped right into it. And I don't know, how do you feel right now after these 5 podcasts, after just doing it? What's your feeling about that? What do you feel?
This podcast helped me massively in all aspects and other projects that I have. I struggle a lot with this kind of problem of perfectionism, because I was said I want to be perfect, but what I was saying, it was I'm scared about other people's opinion. I want to be perfect, but what I was saying, I'm scared that my English is not good enough. I was saying that I want to be perfect, but actually I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And all these ideas block me so much with other projects, with going forward with some ideas, action or collaboration, of create networking. And this podcast helped me so much because I feel so uncomfortable at the beginning that become natural to feel, I become comfortable to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And automatically it helped me to move on with a lot of other ideas. And
Yes.
it's normal, even for me, all the time. Even now, sometimes I feel, Ale, what are you doing? What is this project? And aren't you scared? Yes, I am. I am scared, but I know that at the moment, I repeat in my head, Ale, it's part of the process. Ale, you are here to become better, to become
Yes.
a good speaker or a good podcaster or a good coach or whatever. Because we often forget that people who are good are made a lot of mistakes. Who is even better made even more mistakes. And who is the best one? Who is He's the person who made the most mistakes. But we try all the time to avoid mistakes.
And there are a lot of great examples in history, right? About like famous sports players who tried and failed a lot of times.
Yeah.
Or
Is this the example about Michael Jordan?
yeah,
Oh, we can imagine him, like maybe the player who was training the most, more hours, and try all the time throwing the ball in the chest and throwing and move. And then one day I said, I did, I don't know how many thousand of mistakes, and I failed so many times. I failed the last throw these times, and because of this one, I succeed so much.
yes, and I think that's really the point, right? And it's really cool that you mentioned it. Also, now you said you wanted to improve with the podcast. You just wanted to get better at something, and I think this is also a great way out. Because I think also when we're so afraid and we want to be perfect, we just lack the experience of how it's truly like when we just do something very imperfectly. And but when we start making these experiences and see, well, actually it's not that bad, it's actually fun of being imperfect. And I mean, you can make funny outtakes as well when something goes wrong. And it is not so, it's not in your thoughts, you're creating something that's actually not there. It's not so, there is no real problem when you really do a reality check and see, well, how it's like. So, and also you said you focus more on learning, and so that's also a great way that you did it, right? You moved from like a certain like fixed mindset into a growth mindset of saying, I do not focus on being perfect anymore. I focus on learning. I focus on improving.
Mm-hmm.
And this also takes a lot of pressure off us, right? That when we focus on, because with everything we improve, with mistakes we improve, with what works right, it doesn't matter anymore because you improve anyways. Every step will be an approval. That's beautiful.
And we forget, in this process, we forget to be perfect. We just enjoy this moment. Because you talk about experiences. If I ask you how many experiences you didn't have in your life because you wanted to be perfect?
Oh, come on, like a lot. Like really, I mean, very often I thought maybe I could do this, I could do that, I could be more active on social media. I mean, if I now I'm also, to be honest, by the way, for me it's the same with the podcast. I'm like also doing a lot more things now just because it encouraged me to do everything imperfectly and I just push the things out. If I would have done that, for example, I don't know, if I would have opened a TikTok account a year ago, I would have, I don't know, maybe 500,000 followers already, and I would have a fully running business. I don't know. But just for the fact that I was scared of like putting myself out there and making a mistake, I didn't do it. I missed so many great opportunities because I was like, maybe this is not enough yet. Maybe I need to prepare more. Maybe I need to do this and that. Oh, definitely. I missed a lot of fun as well, right? I mean, this is also something that we are discovering right now, that actually, or at least for me, it's like this, right? Like just improvising or like just when something goes wrong, it's just fun. Sometimes it's just fun.
Yeah. There is some, because I know you, and I know that you traveled
Yes.
for 2 years, and imagine how many experiences you wouldn't have if you would block you and you wouldn't go for this trip. And you will think at the beginning, you know what, I'm not ready to leave. I'm not,
Yeah.
it's not the right moment. Maybe it's better if I continue to work. Maybe it's better if I study a bit more or if I earn a bit more money. How many experiences you have at the moment, and husband who you met during this trip? So we also need to consider what kind of success I had uh, doing what I was scared to do.
Absolutely. And just jumping, right? As you said, I mean, when I started traveling for 2 years, it was far away from perfect. I mean, I bought a plane ticket. I just left and I had no idea what would happen after. I didn't plan anything. So at the beginning, it was also very challenging for me, but it was good because also my will to just do it without having a plan helped me to actually discover myself. It was a very, very beautiful journey to myself for me. But it would have never been that way if I would have planned everything perfectly and if I would have tried to rule out all possibilities or everything that could happen or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally. I mean, it's a very, very good point. Do you have anything? I think we already covered so many points. Um, do you have anything else that you want to
Actually,
give to our listeners?
I believe that what you said now about traveling, it it is a massive point because you did because you felt that it was right for you and it was your time, your experience, your moment, not somebody else. And you had a great experience and a lot of learnings because you act in the way that you thought that it was good for you. And you
Absolutely.
behave, you hear, you listen yourself. You listen
Yes,
your inner voice, your emotions, and you start to act in this way. And it is in the moment that we are who we are that we can be really happy and progress all the time.
absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that summarized it quite well for today.
And yes, so for today, we're finished. Thank you so much. And for the next week, we're going to talk about from struggle to happiness.
I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, click on follow if you want to know more and if you want to have more exciting content from us every week.
Excellent. Thank you.